This motion to dismiss is going to show you the corruption of the courts from the administration all the way up to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Max Baer.
Hey Ma, look, I'm on YouTube.
So stick around, because later on we host Justice Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies to interpret incestuous Pennsylvania law.
Hell, I went to school at Oxford.
Okay, so I have this whole motion linked at the top of the comments down below, so y'all can follow along and see what's actually on the court record, while Counselor Kangaroo guides us through it. Defendant motions to dismiss all charges due to complete lawlessness in the Commonwealth's kangaroo courts. See Exhibit A, motion staying all proceedings, filed 8 October. Now this came in just a couple hours before I did my last trial update, and the problem with this is that this was emailed to me by the prosecution. And if you look in here, there's no stamp by the clerk of court. So this order was not entered onto the court record. So why does the prosecution have it? How on earth did the prosecution get this if it's not filed onto the record? Was it mayhaps an ex parte communication? An ex parte communication is a communication conducted without all parties present, without the party. Anytime that you talk with the bench as a prosecutor or a defendant or representative thereof, you have to include everybody on the conversation just to make sure that there's no favoritism going on. So the fact that the prosecution has this and there's no court stamp on here, how did the prosecution get this without it being filed to the record? Which brings me to Exhibit B, Invalid Order 2.0. So this is that same motion, except that it has the clerk of court stamp on it right here. This means it was entered into the record. And if you look at the timestamp, it was entered into the record at 12:58, which that's a couple hours after my prosecutor sent me version 1.0. This actually got to me after my scheduled trial because I'm not signed up for e-file. So when they sent this order out Friday, pretty much after close of business, it didn't get here until after my trial because of the long holiday weekend. So the question begs, how did the prosecution get this order before it was entered into the court record? The only means is through ex parte communication, as shown in Exhibit C. And if you see here, it originates from some random court administration. So the judge issued this order, and then some random court administrator got a hold of it, emailed it to Jill Smith, this other random court administration, who then emailed it to the prosecution. This right here is an ex parte communication. The administration forwarded this without me being included onto it this many times and then directly to the prosecution. It was never entered into the court record and it was never provided to me until at 10:40 some odd, my prosecutor's like, oh, gee, they must not have your email. Oh, let me forward you this. That's an ex parte communication. So as you see, both of these orders are signed by President Judge Michael George staying my trial. The problem with that is Exhibit D. 8 months prior, he recused himself from this case. You see here, Exhibit D recuses himself as of 19th January. So any order that he made on the court record pertaining to my case, whether it be a stay or whatever have you, it's invalid. This judge does not belong presiding over my case anymore. That is now an invalid order that he issued to continue my trial to a later date. Further delving into this, you see Judge George's procedural error, which means he violated procedural law by assigning a regional unit judge. I explored this in my motion. This is what actually got my last judge disqualified from my hearing. So when there's an entire bench recusal, what's supposed to happen is the president judge sends up a request to the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts for them to impartially assign a judge. Well, Judge George didn't. He installed a judge from his regional unit, and that is straight up against procedural law. That's what I cited here, and that's what actually disqualified the last judge that he assigned to the case. It's to keep judges from protecting their own regional unit friend. Not only is there case law about this, but it straight up disqualified Judge Albert Maslin, and he even cites it in here. Because the administrative office played no role in the appointment, we relinquished jurisdiction. That's because President Judge George violated procedural law and assigned a judge via his regional unit 4. Haha, okay. Number 3, this egregious procedural error segues into Exhibit E, second attempt at assigning a judge. 8 months later, President Judge Michael George succeeds in following procedural law and notifies the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts proper to assign a judge. Number 4, So again, exhibits D and E show that President Judge George has clearly recused himself. So his 8 October order staying proceedings is completely invalid. Okay, point number 5, exhibit F, invalid order number 2. So that same day, October 8th, I guess up there in administration, they realized President Judge George is recused. He can't order a stay. So they told this guy, Joseph C. Maidenspacher, they tell him, oh, dude, you got to put a continuance on this case real quick, or otherwise his trial's going to be scheduled, blah, blah, blah. So this guy comes, however it happens, comes across a record and orders a stay on my trial on October 8th. The only problem with that is Exhibit G, where Judge Maidenspacher is actually assigned the case by the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts. And that is signed, he's authorized to preside over this case by Supreme Court Justice Max Baer on October 12th. So what the shit is this guy doing issuing a stay in my case before he's even assigned to it? If he issues an order before he has jurisdiction, it immediately invalidates that order. And that order was to continue trial. So now both of these orders, staying or continuing my trial, are invalid. So I don't even know what the heck is supposed to go on that next morning. So if we look into Exhibit F some more, Judge Maidenspacher's order staying trial, you look at this and you see how many things had to happen for this judge to make an order on the record before he's even assigned to the case. So who called him up and told him what details of what needed to be assigned before he had access to the case? How did he issue an order that then got signed and stamped and remitted to the record and sent? Just all of this stuff, these are all ex parte communications. Just how did any of this transpire? Point number 6, analyzing Exhibit G, whoops. Now the contents of this appointment from the Supreme Court bring a little more things to light. Judge George has written a request for the assignment of the judge completely leaves out his procedural error. It reads, there was a recusal from all judges. Like, what the shit? Why was there a recusal? All right, so I just got to read this one because its points are so damning. President Judge George's request for an assignment of a judge from the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts concealed his egregious procedural errors in his original appointment of a fellow Regional 4 unit judge. Exhibit G, whoops, reads, there was a full bench recusal of Adams County judges, but neglects to mention why. This is because the entire Adams County bench previously hid defendant's triple attempted murder and stabbing by a local repeat violent firearms offender. Judge George goes on to again neglect to mention that he violated procedural law by assigning the appointment of the judge to his regional unit. President Judge George's statement reads, kicking rocks. So there was a request sent out by the regional unit, not, I am a president judge that broke procedural law to install a regional unit judge that went on to ignore defense attorney misconduct, conspiring with the prosecution, and was disqualified.
Hey, why you still picking on Tony? I made the withdrawal months ago, huh?
Number 7. This blatant tap dance around egregious procedural errors displayed in Exhibit G, whoops, is completely whiffed by the issuing authority, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, Max Baer. Not to be confused with the actor portraying Jethro Bodine on the Beverly Hillbillies. However, Jethro went to school in Oxford and could detect a rat defecating in his cement pond. Okay, as promised, we're going to have a side-by-side analysis of Chief Justice Max Baer interpreting this document versus the actor Max Baer portraying Chief Justice Jethro Bodine.
There was a full bench recusal of Adams County judges. Okay, seems plausible to me. I don't know what a recusal is, but what did all the county's judges have to do it? So there was a request sent out to the regional unit for a judge. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, sounds like pretty standard procedure. What? How'd you say all them words without saying nothing? That there be a rat defecating in my cement pond.
Okay, moving on to point number 8. So we established that both orders of continuing my trial are invalid. The next business day, I show up to court because I don't know if they really continued my trial. The only copy I have of any of these orders staying my trial wasn't stamped by the clerk of courts. So I have no idea if they're trying to rinky-dink me. This is exactly how the Ruby Ridge incident involved. If you guys are wondering about that, you can look it up. It's called Ruby Ridge. And the way the court set it up is that the clerk of courts failed to notify him properly of trial time so that they could issue a bench order for his arrest and put him under observation by sniper teams, which then involved the death of one of those sniper teams, his dog, his boy, and the wife. So I show up to court to talk to administration just to make sure that my trial's actually been stayed, and they defiantly trespass me. See Exhibit H. This is an invalid order. I'm here to talk to Don Fenimore, the clerk of courts. Are you going to arrest me again for standing in a public building?
You need to leave, Jake.
Is Don out here? Is Don Fenimore out here?
You need to leave, Jake.
I need to talk to the clerk of court. I need to talk to the court administrator. I need to talk to the court administrator. I need to talk to the court administrator.
You need to leave.
You need to
No, that is not a legal order. I'm here because I had court today.
You're being told to leave the building. Leave the
No,
building.
here's this invalid order. You see, you got a hold of
Turn
it.
off the camera and leave the building.
No, I'm here for court.
You're not allowed to videotape inside here.
That's not a
They're
legal
asking
order.
you to leave. They're
That's
asking
not
you
a
to
legal order. I'm here.
They're asking you
I'm
to
here to
leave.
check in on this invalid order.
They're asking you.
This is an
to
invalid
leave.
order.
They're asking you.
This
to
is
leave.
not a legal. Look at them put their hands on
Asking
me.
you to leave.
This is not a legal
Ask
order.
for it.
trespass because you've been asked.
Okay, I've been defiant trespass. Thanks, douchebags. Lawlessness. Complete and utter lawlessness. Facing 5 years of imprisonment for standing in the foyer of the public building where his attempted murderer and stabber illegally walked free with no jail time. Get off for stabbing me.
Well, I'm not off. I actually,
Yeah. You got off with murder, pulling your pistol on me.
well, I'm sorry.
So Where does the defendant start? Is the above conspiracy? Is it a violation of due process, equal protection under the law, or denial of right to a speedy trial? How about entrapment or color of law violations? Apparently in the Cronywealth of Pennsylvania, none of the above. It is for these reasons that defendant motions to dismiss all charges due to lawlessness. This kangaroo court is clearly incapable of compliance with common court cases. TTFN, ta-ta for now. It's been bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. Haha, Tigger. Okay, so that was my motion, but you have to do all the attachments and the list and everything. And one of the requirements of court is that you have to pre-fill out the order for your approval of whatever, granting whatever you're requesting. And it's so that a judge doesn't have to sit down and type out a whole bunch of stuff if they approve it. So I actually wrote up a really good order to be granted by these judges. And every time I do one of these motions, I write it completely gonzo. I write it off the wall so the judge will never, ever sign it. So they have to go and type through their own order. And this one's really important because if the judge signed this, I'd be crowned royalty. And now, upon this blank day of 2021, upon consideration of defendant's motion to dismiss all charges due to complete lawlessness, defendant's motion is granted. This kangaroo court has been called out, had its card pulled, and laid bare in lawlessness. As there are no societal laws, by tribal decree, due to besting our chief, get it, justice in courtroom combat, I crown defendant king of this here kangaroo court, pro tempore. Woo! All right, y'all, so that was a big move, but there's actually a lot more going on with this. I'm trying to appeal these two invalid orders staying my trial, and the process is convoluted to say the least. I'm lawyering my face off and trying to keep y'all updated as entertainingly as time permits.
All right, take two. Bullet.
Right now, I'm about totally maxed out on time, and I'm completely shadow banned online. So I need y'all's help getting this out there. All the local, state, and federal agencies that are responsible for prosecuting this are better politically off to ignore it. The only way this story will break is through peer-to-peer shares. Thanks, y'all. Much love.